Afternoon, with your magic ooh, sliding back on my bamboo, making your sixth grade debut. Hey, you know it goes up, Scorpio. Tell me that's only coming to Antonio. Tell me going down the middle like Oreo. Then it's mine, I'm territorial. She says no love on the south side. You don't trust nobody, maybe that's why. She told me all she needed was the right guy, but she don't feel inside. Trying to bounce back like a rubber band. Saying girl pants for Instagram. No bitch never get about it out of man. Baby, we can take a trip to the West End. You can be my sweet, be my best friend. We can make love to the dry land. Watch our stays in the waves of the highlands. So we can't be friends. No, we can't be friends. Anything we just friends. So we just gon' talk. Man, I'm all just fans. You just worry about the mess, cause we can't be friends. No, we can't be friends. Anything we just friends. I've been getting to the best. Feel like I'm going in. Feel like I'm going in. And I ain't really in a rush. But I know your love is a must, girl. And you ain't gotta say too much, cause the look in your eyes screws you up. And who may love to you like me? You know I love that sugar honey iced tea. You be telling all your friends you don't like me, but I be knocking down your walls for a nightly. Girl, don't act like it's just me in love all alone. You got me in the dark, tell me what's going on. But you much rather dance. Tryna bounce back like a rubber band. Take a couple pics for Instagram, hoping that you can forget about that other man. Baby, we can take a trip to the West End. You could be my buddy, be my best friend. We can make love on the dry land. Watch our stays in the waves of the islands. But we can't be friends. No, we can't be friends. Anything we just friends. So them bitches gon' talk. Man, them hoes just fans. You just worry about the mess. We can't be friends. No, we can't be friends. Anything we just friends. I've been getting to the best. For your love, I'm going in. For your love, I'm going in. Oh, yeah. Red dance school, never be a policeman.
Top floor of the fountain blue, having threesome. Look you in your eyes, say they love you, just don't bleed them. In the trenches, gotta play them close like you need them. Chest pains, I was sipping lean by the leader. How you screaming that you got some killers, you don't feed them. Buka steady tripping when I say don't leave the kids. Don't ever put your all into a bitch, cause she gon' leave you. And I know a couple Atlanta hoes with her lashes. In the trap, I fuck the baddest bitches on the map. actress. Given to the trenches, took advantage of my kindness. I done gave a nigga a lot of pounds without asking. Government, they shut down, he got his time in. Damn well, he don't supposed to be on home confinement. Killers right on stomach, off my words just like Simon. I can judge a nigga by his character off his timing. I know a nigga, he shooting dice with the T's. But how you say that when I give him all they need? And even though he ain't show no love, I try to reach. In Commonwealth, he took a dub, nigga, please. Is it possible they love you like they say they do? Is it possible your homies, they gon' hate on you? But they check out how your day wants to lay on you. Is they keeping it 1,000 like they say they do? They don't understand. They consider them fans. Told you ain't friends, it's only family. Is it possible you gon' ride? Is it possible you gon' ride? Out on 1300, so don't act like you can't find us. Something lost his life, I bang the same block he died for. September 18th, ain't that the same shit we cried for? All the niggas got to slide when them tears dried up. Made it out the trenches, we young vets and survivors. Learned so much from that corner above my head, but now I'm wiser. Chasing out the trends, I risked my freedom for designer. Almost lost my life, got out of hours on that time. Now I hit up treasures with 100,000 on me. I don't fuck with niggas, I'm with blast about my only. Loyalty down slow, you gotta watch out for your homies. If any nigga play a dead man, that's what he gon' be. Is it possible they love you like they say they do? Is it possible your homies, they gon' hate on you? For that check out how your day wants to lay on you. Is they keeping it 1,000 like they say they do? They don't understand. They consider them fans.
Worried your devices won't connect. You slipped to Android? It's all good. Please, Karen.
Hello, our story begins inside of the learning center of Jedi Temple. Anakin Skywalker was the newest face amongst a sea of Jedi who spent their entire lives building friendships here inside the temple. Anakin didn't know a soul, and the instructors weren't to lose welcome. They acknowledged Anakin being new, and then moved on. It's not like there was a process for this. The Jedi wanted Anakin to feel included, but there hadn't been a Jedi older than the age of 3 brought into the Order for some years, so it wasn't exactly the most typical thing for them to deal with. Anakin found a seat towards the back of the class and got used to all the differences, whether it be the chilled rooms, which he never had on Tatooine, the tight Jedi robes, the peers around him, the peacefulness, or the extreme change in the overall vibe from Mos Espa to Coruscant. The city life was different. Not like Coruscant wasn't a city, but Mos Espa was a crime city. The Jedi Temple itself was like a tiny city within a larger city, so it was an extreme polar opposite from Tatooine. On Tatooine, crime and fighting were normal. Here, nothing was ever aggressive and everything was meant to be peaceful. Their room was seated in an open corridor, so people who were passing by could be seen if one were to slightly twist their head and look. Anakin wasn't really paying much attention anyways. There was a lot to take in, and with his new feelings and the Force being acknowledged, it was a bit overwhelming. For Anakin, it felt like all of his senses were beginning to get heightened. When he was younger, he knew he was special, but there were no words to describe how he knew how to do what he was able to do. It was just more or less him figuring out how to do things because he could feel that they had to be done in that particular way. Now he was a Jedi, surrounded by other people, and he could pick up on their essences. Not just those in the classroom, but people from all across the temple. It was overbearing. He could feel the peacefulness residing within Master Yoda. He could sense the anxiety coming from Obi-Wan. He could almost feel this billowing resentment from Pong Krell. All over the temple, so many beings, so many Jedi, and so much radiant Force. It didn't stop at the temple, because as Mr. Qui-Gon said, the Force lives in all beings. So, he could feel people outside the temple and throughout the city itself. It was a lot to take in, and he didn't have the knowledge to concentrate those feelings so it didn't overwhelm him. So he sat there in his seat, quietly suppressing a rising anxiety within himself. But all the cold sweats and twitching could be seen from a mile away, which it was seen and felt by a passerby, who was very unaware of this boy's presence. The Jedi who was walking by was one of the many Jedi who frequented this area of the temple. He, after all, was a caretaker of a very special young Jedi, one that belonged to the same species as Master Yoda and Master Yaddle. This Jedi was going there at the moment, but he stopped and walked into the classroom and spoke to the teacher without making it audible for the other students to hear. He asked the name of the boy at the back of the class and requested to take him. The teacher was fine with it, assuming that Caloran Beck had something planned. But Master Beck turned over and looked at Anakin and called him by name, asking him to come with him. Anakin scurried up to the front of the classroom and followed Kelleran out of the room. The moment they were away from earshot or view from the classroom, Kelleran asked Anakin if he was feeling alright. Skywalker was a bit shaken, but he mustered the words to express him what he was feeling. For the most part, it was a surreal dizziness. He could hardly walk or see straight, so Kelleran brought Anakin away from the area down to a quieter location within this section of the temple. Firstly, Kelleran asked if Anakin had been eating or not, and when it was revealed that he had been, he knew exactly what it was. Kelleran specialized in teaching younglings. It was one of the things that he was most proficient in, and while he was a very extremely talented duelist and a user of the lightsaber, his main area of focus was instruction. He knew that Anakin was struggling to focus on the Force as a whole, and so it was becoming too much for him to handle. Kelleran got Anakin's mind off of it by asking him some basic questions. By doing this, he got a firmer understanding of why he never saw Anakin around these halls. For Kelleran, he just assumed he was forgetting faces, because it did happen sometimes. But this was not that. It was just a 9-year-old, now 10 years old, brought to the Jedi Temple. With Anakin now focused on something else, Kelleran was able to talk to Anakin about how he could focus on the Force, lower his range of focus to something specific. In this case, he suggested that he focus on Kelleran himself. It was someone right in front of him and it would be easy. Kelleran suggested to have Anakin focus on himself because it was an outward focus. Once Anakin learned that, then he could bring it back to himself and begin to have some inward focus. The process wasn't hard or anything for Anakin to accomplish, but once he did, he felt a lot better. His head and mind weren't completely misconstrued, and he was able to simply enjoy having free thoughts again. Kelleran told Anakin that he could bring him back to class and he would be around if he needed anything. So that's what they did. Anakin went back to class and Kelleran went to where Grogu was and spent time with him and, well, be the caretaker. Over the coming weeks, Kelleran and Anakin would have a couple more interactions, mostly because Anakin was drawn to Kelleran. Aside from Obi-Wan, he didn't know anyone. The only other person that Anakin was at all familiar with was a girl in a class below his named Barriss Offee, but they didn't spend a lot of time in the same classes or areas of the temple together. Anakin didn't pay much attention during classes, but he picked up on some useful things. More or less, he became Kelleran's shadow, which of course Kelleran didn't mind. Anakin was nice to have around, but he always had a burning sensation to ask questions. Kelleran always had the best answers for them. That was how their bond started. One simple act of kindness from Kelleran. Of course, Obi-Wan was around, but he was always studying so that he could be the master Anakin needed. There was a lot of anxiety and stress in this for Obi-Wan because he didn't want to mess it up, and he didn't want to fail. He knew he had a large reputation to live up to, especially considering Skywalker was supposed to be with Qui-Gon. Because Anakin was a couple years removed from becoming an actual Padawan, it gave time for him to actually develop a bond with Kelleran, which, because of their bond, had Master Beck going to the High Council requesting that Anakin become his apprentice, which the Council, while not entirely on board with, reluctantly accepted. Though they would suggest that Kelleran spend time with Kenobi as well. Master Beck had no issue with this. Obi-Wan was a fine young man, and he would enjoy his company. See, there was something special about Kelleran. He may have been a caretaker or an instructor, but he spoke a special language. His heart and soul was put into every interaction he had with anyone, especially younglings and Padawans. He made them better individuals by simply being himself. Kelleran had this radiant personality, booming with love and companionship. For younglings and Padawans especially, this connected with them. He was much younger than Terrace and Nube and Yoda, which made him more relatable, but he was also more fun than they were. This for Anakin had a huge effect on his development. Where Qui-Gon was originally his father figure, Kelleran immediately became that replacement, and the bond that Anakin had with Kelleran was shared with him. Because while Master Beck was a Jedi, he was able to give the compassionate, warm feelings that only...
Get 50% off all Domino's online pizza orders at menu price this week only.
dream. Vampiric lesbians.
Galaxy's greatest hero is Vicious Villain, all competing in an epic battle for the ages. That combat like this for the underground villain.
The summer of my 6th grade year, so I never went back to school after that. Yep. That was it. I was homeschooled ever since.
And it was, my life changed forever 20 years ago. As much as it has. It's been fire ever since, right?
It's been fire ever since.
I don't know if you remember, I'm Vincent. I'm the first AD.
So let me tell you what I remember about you, sir.
Okay.
I remember Andy having to be like, yo, get the kids together. And you had a hard time with a lot of them. So I'm grateful to be standing in front of you and say, I'm sorry for giving you a hard time. It was on me.
To be honest with you, you didn't give me a hard. I mean, it was one of my best memories of working with a bunch of kids.
Wild times, young kids. Young kids.
Oh my goodness.
Good to see you, brother. How are you? Work hard, same man.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, how you doing?
Jody, I was production of myself.
Yes, man.
You were shorter.
Yeah.
Simon J.
Talking about you.
I'm so excited to see everyone here. Got a chance to talk to Andy, and I'm just like, man,
Oh my.
sir, nice to see you. Tell me what you built. I built all the production on me, man, gaming wise, you know, So the fact that the industry shit for all stuff, I just invested in small equipment and saved. What does that look like? What do? You got an ice studio? Yeah, I have my own studio. I got my own editing equipment. I got my own lights and everything that we had on production, right? We got to think all that stuff we have. Think of how much that stuff is now shrunken down because technology now is the same quality as that. So why would I wait for someone else? Well, actually, when I can call it for myself, I don't know if you remember my little brother. This is Kadeem now.
What's up, Larry? How you doing, man? That's life is together that previous.
Yo, we were just talking about everything that we built together. I thank you for everything you told me.
What a great time it was.
How are you, sir? Oh, man. So good to see you. So good to see you, brother.
Who's this? Your brother?
My baby, yes, my little brother Kadeem. Yeah, he was there.
He's more handsome than you are. What's going
Come
on?
on now, man. The baby brother, man. If it wasn't for this man, nothing.
He's still in a hole.
It's because of him of everything. I'm forever grateful. Forever grateful. Thank you so much, sir. Oh, my God. This is nuts. What are you doing?
Can I get your autograph, bro? Can I get your autograph, bro? Can I get that autograph, bro?
The one and only Miguel Castro, ladies and gentlemen, who plays Maggie.
I'm actually on the other side. I'm actually on the other side. You got a sign in your face, right here. Give it to me right here. It's gonna worth money. It's gonna worth money right here. This is the money right here. Money shot. Money shot. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, dog. Appreciate you.
This is insane. 20 years, man, and for it to still have the same kind of impact, to run into the stunt man, the producer.
Shut the fuck,
oh, man.
punk ass bitch.
I am the evil Sith Lord. Everyone's looking for.
An evil Sith Lord.
It's the only Qui-Gon could be able to give. Obi-Wan wasn't at that age yet where he could radiate this wise Jedi Master thing. So for Anakin, Kelleran was the guy he wanted to impress. Like Qui-Gon, he didn't put him down. So whenever Anakin messed up, he always course-corrected to ensure he wasn't doing anything wrong. This encouraged a lot of changes within Anakin's development. Kelleran, for instance, was really big on listening in class, so Anakin began to listen during class and become less hostile. Master Beck was also really big on the mind, which for Anakin, because of his desire to mistake or messed up, he radiated this wise Jedi Master thing. So for Anakin, Kelleran was the guy he wanted to impress. Like Qui-Gon, he didn't want to let him down, so whenever Anakin made a mistake or messed up, he always course-corrected to ensure he wasn't doing anything wrong. This encouraged a lot of changes within Anakin's development. Kelleran, for instance, was really big on listening in class, so Anakin began to listen during class and become less hostile. Master Beck was also really big in humility, patience, and strength of mind, which for Anakin, because of his desire to impress the Jedi Master, meant he worked on this with dedication, always trying to reach a new level of growth to impress Master Beck. Believe it or not, this made Anakin more of a Jedi than he originally realized. His determination when he put his mind to something was unmoving, which allowed him to grow into a young Jedi unlike he could have ever imagined. This didn't make Anakin any less of an emotional being, it just made him more concentrated. Just like his early struggles with the Force, when he focused his mind on something, he was able to excel in it. By the time Anakin was old enough to become a Padawan, he was taken in by Master Beck. Obi-Wan was brought back to be a part of this process as well, and the Council by this point, after seeing Anakin's development transform from lots of reports of his behavior all the way to little to no hiccups, decided that it would be alright for Obi-Wan to be present and earn the rank of Master through training Anakin alongside Kelleran. Obi-Wan was already dedicated and highly liked by the Council, so this was a no-brainer on their part. He could assist Anakin's training and continue his career with the Jedi Order himself. It would be a win-win, and Obi-Wan saw it as such as well. With the assistance and basically headlong training done by Kelleran, a lot of pressure was taken off of Obi-Wan. Though there was one difference about this relationship with Master and Apprentice. A key reason Obi-Wan was brought in was because Kelleran was a caretaker of Grogu. He oversaw everything there was to see with Grogu. So in turn, this meant that Skywalker would have to spend time with Kenobi when Kelleran wasn't able to be with him. So this wasn't really that big of a deal, or an issue at all for any of the parties. This would give Obi-Wan and Anakin bonding time as well. Though for Skywalker, he became very close with Grogu, and saw the young Force wielder almost like his own responsibility. The reason this fell on Kelleran was because of Master Yaddle's disappearance. There was still no confirmed death for her, and she was originally supposed to take up the mantle of Grogu's training, especially once Kelleran began training Anakin at least. Nothing overall would change from any of their regiments. The biggest difference essentially would be Anakin being in classes. Aside from that, everyone was basically doing the same thing. Because of Kelleran's responsibility to Grogu, they couldn't leave Coruscant for extended periods of time. Something peculiar did happen when Skywalker became a Padawan. The Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic requested that he come along on a mission of some sort. Typically, the Jedi were okay with following the request of the Chancellor, and while Obi-Wan okayed it, Kelleran did not. He told Anakin that there was no need to involve himself with the Chancellor. This wasn't at all because Kelleran had anything bad to assume about Palpatine. It was just more or less he didn't want Anakin around the Chancellor by himself, or any other politicians by himself, until the end of the night. The whole asking for a Padawan was kind of weird in Kelleran's eyes, so Obi-Wan was sent instead, which for Obi-Wan was absolutely glorious, and he loved it so much. He hated everyone with it. Anakin didn't know about any of this at all, and if he did, he likely wouldn't care all that much either. There was no reason for him to care for the Chancellor aside from the remarks he made on Naboo almost 4 years ago. Something about career and great interest. Who knows, who cares? While Obi-Wan was off with Palpatine on their grand adventure, Anakin and Kelleran were playing with lightsabers.
Contact local agent Jody Brackett for an auto quote today.
Faction. Blaster technology has evolved. Faction blasters shoot faster and harder than traditional dart blasters. They use water-based gel beads that are...
Kelleran, as a Padawan, was referred to by his peers as a sabered hand. He was extremely talented with the blade, and while he typically used one lightsaber, he was highly proficient in two favorite form. Anakin was eager to learn about that, but as Beck suggested, it would take time before he could even use two lightsabers at the same time, which was fine. Anakin by this point adopted a green lightsaber, as it fit his personality a little bit more, and he followed Kelleran's instruction with the blade. As eager as Anakin was to get into lightsaber training with his master, his alert was getting really faster when he was put in practice. Over the years, his interest shifted, and while he wasn't typically the Jedi enthusiast, he was much more interested in the intellectual activities of the Jedi, which is something that Kelleran wanted away. A lot of this came from a bond that grew between Anakin and Grogu. At this point, Grogu didn't speak, but both Anakin and him spoke the same language. It was like they were brothers, so Kelleran just allowed it to foster. A lot of the teaching that Kelleran explained was fostering Anakin's growth as an individual. It wasn't really much more than guidance. For Kelleran, it was again the difference between brotherhood and fatherhood, in essence. Anakin would have seen Obi-Wan more as an equal, sometimes referring to him as a brother, but other times as a father. But with Kelleran, it was consistent. Also, if Obi-Wan was instructing alone, without any interference from Kelleran, Anakin would have been as rigid as he was the day he arrived in the temple, which would have been hard to work initially.
In the marvelous words of Tokyo Tone, get on your knees and eat my pussy.
Very wise Jedi once said. Follow my lead, we'll all make it home. One lightsaber and then I'll start to scatter.
I'm starving.
Call this a diplomatic solution. This is where the fun begins. All your senses. Call this a diplomatic solution.
Destiny, prove no match for the villain, daring to challenge the legendary Anakin Skywalker.
When I punch somebody in the face, nigga, it's over. In the back of my mind.
I know you don't be on TikTok like that.
I know you're doing it.
Some other people.
It's like a day more apocalypse on TikTok. They just pick like all these families.
I know the other guy is the Argo, Brandon.
No. It's the nudist.
Oh, the one that look like Kratos?
Oh,
Yeah, and he got a big ass beard. The one that look like Kratos. They said this the new God of War, and then it's like, they're good, bitch.
They're good, nigga. Where Baldness go? Hey, girl.
Broke nigga alert. Broke nigga alert.
Please welcome the galaxy's greatest heroes, deadliest villains, and gaudiest film promoter, and epic battle for your fatal attention.
Beat your fucking nigga up, nigga.
Negotiator.
What slug hole did you call out? That is.
This is where the fun begins.
It's been good exercise for some of the
That cannot exist. Not walking over the competition. Halfway to victory. Hooray.
This is where the fun begins.
Joey, it's not gonna go. Okay.
This is where the fun begins.
Very fast on the whoosh.
And the kids, what's the money
Beat a nigga up. What?
Tyler doesn't like to drink black.
Hey, sis. You fucking weirdo! Dark meditation.
We're rather diplomatic. Obi-Wan was earning the recognition as a master of diplomacy, even though he wasn't fully a master at this point. For Anakin, it meant that most of his interactions weren't action-oriented, which for him was perfectly fine. He wasn't as interested in chasing it as much anymore. The group of Jedi typically moved together, Caloran and Obi-Wan on point with Grogu and Anakin following behind. As Anakin grew older, and the tension in the galaxy increased, Skywalker found himself closer to the Jedi than ever before. He didn't typically interact with the Council, but he found himself closer to Obi-Wan, Grogu, and Caloran. At 22 BBY, Anakin would put up for a mission that would be passed over to Obi-Wan. Caloran and Anakin were preparing for a mission to Ryloth when the Chancellor requested that he watch over Padme Amidala after she was almost assassinated on Coruscant. Though this task was passed over to Obi-Wan, he readily accepted it, due to having not seen his friend in a long time. During their mission to Ryloth, Anakin began having terrible nightmares, which would lead to Anakin requesting that they leave Ryloth for Tatooine. Master Beck was surprised by this incessant need to leave, but once he heard the nature of the journey, he immediately picked up and left. What they were doing on Ryloth was quickly resolved anyways, and so it wasn't that big of a deal for them to just leave. Through a series of circumstances, Anakin and Caloran landed themselves at the Lars homestead to learn that Shmi was taken by the Tusken Raiders. Caloran could feel something he never felt from Anakin before. It was pure darkness. It was a powerful darkness that sat in his dude that he never noticed. Sensing it, he decided to go with Anakin to retrieve his mother. Through several hours, it would eventually arrive at a Tusken camp under the cover of night. The two Jedi quietly entered the camp and found Shmi tied to a post. She was very badly injured, lots of bruising and cuts across her body. She clearly had been starved to some degree. Caloran felt an evil lurking in the student, something that could do so much worse than he could ever imagine. As Shmi lay dying in her son's arms, Caloran told Anakin to focus on the moment. They had to work quickly. Caloran was one of the few teachers inside the temple that continued to use powers such as Force Heal. Even him wearing the crest of the High Republic, Caloran had family members inside the Jedi Order for generations. He was the end of a long line, which is why he wore such robes. The knowledge of the Force Heal was inside of the restricted section of the temple, but Caloran learned it from one of his uncles. He placed his hand on Shmi's shoulder and his other hand on Anakin's shoulder. Caloran told Anakin to feel the Force, let it flow from him into his mother. Anakin tried and begged the question, but he was silenced. As they focused on the Force, Anakin could feel his body draining to an extent. But when he opened his eyes, his mother was breathing healthily, and the cuts and bruises had dissipated. Anakin asked what that was, as Caloran shook his head and pressed his finger to his lips. A Tusken Raider was coming in. Anakin prepared to launch a lightsaber into this rabid face, but it was prevented. Caloran quickly got up and used his force to stay the Tusken Raider and placed her gently on the ground. Anakin and Shmi got out the backside of the tent and escaping into the distance. When they arrived in the morning, the family was shocked to see Shmi alright. She was a bit dehydrated and hungry, but could you live? Caloran would stay with Anakin on Tatooine for another week or so. Throughout this time, Master Beck would enforce that Anakin work on continuing coming in peace. They had a couple of deep conversations, and Anakin was taught about not giving into his anger and having a better control over his emotions. In these conversations, Caloran apologized for not having seen it earlier, and recognizing that while it was Anakin's emotions, that he as a teacher wished he could have assisted him through it earlier. In this, Master Beck was able to make Anakin take accountability for his own emotions and what they almost made him do, but also show him that his master was in it with him. While they were restructuring their bond once more, a massive battle broke out on the planet of Rhodia. Without a battle of Geonosis, the Republic was blindsided. The senator from Rhodia, along with the rest of the planet's government, showed no interest in joining the Confederacy, and then it was cracked on the side of the head. Droid forces rained down and brought war to the planet. The Republic was able to respond, but this was just the beginning of the war. Anakin, who was still a Padawan, was brought back to Coruscant after giving his love to his mother and saying goodbye. Because Anakin was still a Padawan, he was kept inside the temple. On the other hand, Obi-Wan was sent out to be a warrior on the front lines. Kelleran believed there was much more work to be done with Skywalker, and while Anakin could have seen this as holding him back, he didn't. At this point, there wasn't really much that Kelleran could do wrong. He was a father figure to Anakin, and he just saved his mother's life. Not really more he could do than that. Because of the lack of connection between Anakin and Palpatine, as well as Anakin's more effort, he was able to mitigate his growth in the dark side and completely diminish it. The Dark Lord was Sith, he could deal with this. Of course, he thought Skywalker would be the perfect apprentice, but if not, he needed to work around it. Palpatine knew the Force. He understood that no matter what, the Force would try and put someone into a place of equal power to defeat him. This, of course, was Anakin. If he couldn't turn